Welcome to another video. In this video we're going to treat the borer that's made themselves a home in this vintage radio cabinet. Now if you saw part 1 of my 1939 Model 65 Columbus radio, you would have seen we found some borer holes just on the front of the cabinet here. Now in this video we'll be taking a closer look at this cabinet just in case there's any other damage that I've missed, and then we'll be looking at treating the cabinet just to prevent any future damage from woodworm or borer. Let's make a start. First thing we're going to do is just look around the cabinet with a torch, and we're just looking for any signs of exit holes from the borer. So we know we've got a couple of holes around the front here. Now these exit holes or flight holes can be roughly about 1 to 3 millimeters in diameter. Now once the larvae hatch, they'll eat through the interior of the wood, and that can take about 2 to 4 years before they pupate and exit through new flight holes in order to breed. If you do see new flight holes or wood dust on your radio cabinet, there's a good chance there's still borer or woodworm on the inside of the wood. So it's a good time to get on to treating that wood as soon as you can to prevent further damage. And just checking the other side, I can't see any evidence of exit holes from the borer, so that's a good sign. Now what we'll do next is we'll just check out the top of the cabinet. Okay, we'll just start at the back of the cabinet and we're just going to work from one side to the other. And I can't see any, which is good thing. Now I like this detail of this inlay here, which is really nice. It's a nice finishing touch to the top of the cabinet there. Let's take a look underneath the cabinet. Now just taking a look underneath the cabinet, can't see any evidence of borer exit holes under here. However, I've found these holes just on the edges of the cabinet, and I think these are holes created from a nail punch. So I suspect there'll be nails in those holes and they've just been punched through. Now just taking a look on the inside of the back of the cabinet, just on the opposite side to the front damage, we have a exit hole just here. Okay, and I've spotted one down here. And I'll just check this floor out. Now taking a look at the floor of the cabinet, can't see any damage there. Now I'm just going to flip the cabinet onto its side. No visible damage on this side of the cabinet. And we'll just take a look on the inside top of the cabinet. Okay, and again I can't see any signs of borer damage. Now before we move on to treating the borer in this wooden cabinet, one thing to note is borer or woodworm, they like to lay their eggs on bare wood or old exit flight holes. We've got bare wood around these cutouts for the dials, knobs and the magic eye here. Another thing to note is that you'll notice that the clear coating or varnish has broken down on this vintage radio cabinet. Now that's exposed wood, and that's just another avenue for woodworm or borer to enter the woodwork on this vintage radio cabinet. And if we just take a look at the back of the inside of the cabinet, I don't know what sort of treatment from factory, if any, that this inside of the cabinet has. Looks like it's got some sort of stain to it, but I don't know if that's actually going to seal or protect the wood from borer itself. Now let's get on to treating the woodwork on this vintage radio cabinet. First we're going to freeze the cabinet in a deep freezer. Second step is we're just going to use some chemicals on the existing flight holes and applying it to the bare wood on the vintage radio cabinet itself. Now the chemicals that I'm going to use is this Kiwi Care branded no borer injector spray. And the second chemical that we're going to use is this no borer total wood protection. Now the idea behind freezing this vintage radio cabinet is it's going to kill any larvae that's on the inside of the woodwork of the cabinet itself. Going to use this no borer spray injector to spray insecticide into any existing exit holes on the cabinet itself, and then lastly we're going to use this no borer total wood protection product just on the bare wood itself. Okay, well let's prep this cabinet ready for freezing. Now the first thing you want to do is just make sure you're not actually freezing your chassis in there as well. That's already been removed out of the cabinet itself. Now the other thing I'm just going to remove here is just the speaker grill material, just to prevent any damage to it. It looks like it's the original material itself, so don't want to damage that in any way in the freezing process. Okay, well, we'll make a start removing the speaker grill material, and then we'll get this cabinet ready for freezing. Now that we've removed the speaker grill material, the next step is just placing the radio cabinet into a big plastic rubbish bag. That's just to prevent any moisture damage to the wood while it's in the freezer. Now before I forget, I'm just going to pop this piece of timber back in. This was the timber used to hold the speaker grill material. Now we want this also to be treated in the freezer, therefore we'll just screw it back into place. Welcome back. We've successfully wrapped this vintage radio cabinet up in plastic. Now the idea behind wrapping this up in plastic is just to protect it from any moisture when we place it into the deep freezer. Now you also notice that I've used some tape here. That was just to tape around a join where I joined two plastic bags together, and I've also just taped both ends of the cabinet as well. Okay, well let's go inside and place this into the deep freezer. Okay, so our vintage radio cabinet's now in the freezer. We're going to leave that in there for a week, and then we'll carry on with the other stages of the treatment. Now the vintage radio cabinet's actually been in the freezer for just over a week now. Let's go inside, take it out of the freezer, unwrap it, let it defrost, and then we can continue working on it. Okay, now that we've got the cabinet out of the freezer and on the workbench here, we'll make a start unwrapping the plastic from it, and we'll take a look inside. Now that we've removed the vintage radio cabinet from the plastic rubbish bag, what we're going to do next is just let this cabinet thaw out, and then we'll carry on with the borer treatment process. It's now the next day here and the cabinet has thawed out. What we're going to do next is just clean the interior and exterior of the cabinet before we apply any of the chemical treatments. Now one area I really want to clean up on this cabinet. Now if we just take a look on the inside, you'll see a lot of this fly dirt around in it. Really want to give that a good clean up before we apply any of the chemical treatment. And I just noticed there's a little bit of fly dirt on top of the cabinet as well. Now for the cleanup, I'll be using some dishwashing liquid mixed in with some warm water, and we'll just wipe that dirt off. Now that we've cleaned the interior and exterior of our vintage radio cabinet, what we'll do now is just wait for it to dry, and then we can apply our borer treatment. With the cleaning of the cabinet complete and it's had a chance to dry, it's now time to apply the chemical treatments to the cabinet. Now these are the two products here that I'll be using to treat and prevent the reinfection of borer in this vintage radio cabinet. Now the first product that we'll be using is this no borer spray injector. Now if you can't find this exact same product, I'll put the active ingredient just on the screen so that you can find the equivalent. Now this product's used to spray insecticide directly into the borer hole to kill any larvae that's in the hole or in the surrounding area and prevent reinfection. Now the second product that we're going to use is called No Borer Total Wood Protection. Now this product here is designed to penetrate into the wood to provide a protection to bare or exposed timber. Let's make a start. First thing we're going to use is this borer spray injector, and we're just going to spray the insecticide into all the borer holes that we've identified earlier. Now before using any of these products, it's a good idea just to have some safety glasses on, and that's just to protect your eyes from any insecticide, especially if you're using the spray injector. If you're spraying this product into a borer hole and there's a pressure buildup, there's a chance that there could be blowback of insecticide onto your face, so it's always good to have some eye protection on. Now we're just going to make a start just in this bottom left hand corner of the cabinet, and we identified 3 holes just in this area. So we'll just take our spray injector and we'll just spray insecticide into each of these holes here. Okay, so we'll just inject the pesticide into the other holes here. So that's got a bit of pressure behind this one. And I'll just wipe off some of this excess. Right, with our front now complete, we can move on to the inside of the cabinet. Now earlier in the video we discovered a hole just on the inside opposite where the front damage of the cabinet was. So I'm just going to put a bit of spray into that hole. And I've got another hole just on the side here. Now that we've treated all the borer holes on this vintage radio cabinet, the next step I want to take is just putting some treatment on this exposed bare wood just around the cutouts of the cabinet. Now just when we're working around this bare exposed wood here, we don't want to put too much of the insecticide or treatment on. We don't want this veneer wood here to come away from the actual plywood on the inside here. So what I'll do is I'll carry on using this injector spray as I can spray it on sparingly, whereas if I was going to use this No Borer Total Wood Protection product, it's in a spray bottle, I won't be able to control that spray as easily, and there's a chance that I could ruin this veneer. Okay, well I'll make a start. We'll just get these cutouts treated and then we'll move on to treating the rest of the cabinet. Now that we've finished treating the borer holes and these cutouts here on this vintage radio cabinet, it's now time to use this no borer total wood protection product, and we're going to use that on the internal bare wood or exposed surfaces on this cabinet. Now in the future I might be restoring the outside of this vintage radio cabinet, so we'll just be using this product on the inside of the cabinet. Now the reason why I don't want to apply it to the outside of the cabinet is that I don't know what implications this product will have in the future if I was to apply a clear coat or a varnish. So we'll just stick to treating the inside of the cabinet for now. Okay, well let's make a start. We'll get into treating the inside of this vintage radio cabinet. Okay, now that we've applied the treatment to the exposed and bare wood inside the back of the cabinet, what I'm going to do now is just let it sit, just so it can soak into the wood. Now that the treatment inside the cabinet has dried, it's time to treat the bottom of the cabinet. Now one thing to note, the piece of timber that's used to hold the speaker grill material up, now I've forgotten to treat the back of that piece of timber, so we'll just remove that and treat that as well. Right, we're on the final stage of treating this cabinet, and what we're going to do is just spray the wood treatment just on the bottom of the cabinet. Now what I'm going to use here is a piece of cardboard just to act as a backsplash, just to catch all the spray droplets. Right, so I'm just going to leave that to penetrate into the wood, and that'll be a job done. Well, that brings us to the end of another video. We've successfully treated the borer on this vintage radio cabinet. The next stage is just working on the electronics for this radio, and I have a special guest coming on for the next video, so stay tuned for that one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.
Alright, let's throw some electrons at that, see what happens.